Beneath the veneer of a gentle family man, a husband concealed a dark secret for years. When his wife vanished without a trace from a heavily monitored apartment complex, all of China began to ask, how could a woman completely evaporate without leaving any evidence? Behind this rekindled first love was a story of deep childhood trauma, a thirst for power and money, and a series of decisions that drove a once exemplary man to unimaginable brutality. This became one of the most thoroughly investigated murder cases of the 21st century in China. Let's explore this case with crime documentary files right now. Born in 1965 in a small village in Juji, Shaoxing, Zhejiang province, Guoli endured a challenging childhood. He grew up in a family with 3 brothers. He had an adopted older brother and a younger brother. Fate did not smile on Guoli when his mother died from illness when he was just 4 years old. Despite the family's extremely difficult circumstances, his father diligently raised the 3 children, and they maintained a good reputation in the village. Guoli remained in his hometown until he was 19, when he enlisted in the military in Fujian and became a combat engineer. 3 years of military service passed quickly, and after being discharged, he returned to work at a glass factory in his hometown. With limited education and lacking specialized skills, Guoli could only secure basic jobs, and his life passed in mundane routine. To make a living, he decided to venture into small-scale business. In 1987, Guoli rented a room in the Zhangjiaba residential area of Hangzhou to start selling fish. Fate led him to the Lai family, the owners of the rental room, and there he met Lai Huili, the landlord's 19-year-old daughter. This meeting was like a ray of sunshine breaking through the gloomy sky of Guoli's life. People say that in his youth, Guoli possessed handsome looks and a captivating demeanor. His years in the military had shaped him into a straightforward, strong figure with gestures that exuded rare integrity. Huili, a young woman with a fluttering heart, could not resist the attraction to this stranger. Thus, a romance blossomed between the wealthy Hangzhou girl and the poor boy from rural Juji. For both, this was their first and purest love, a sincere, deep affection that was nurtured through 3 sweet years of dating. During this period, Guoli also found love with a woman surnamed Guan. After their wedding, they happily welcomed their first son, completing their small family. At that time, Guoli usually combed his hair back and always paid attention to his clean, neat appearance. Whenever he left home for work, his demeanor exuded leadership with special attention to his personal image. After years of saving, by 2000, Guoli boldly entered the duck farming industry, learning from successful fellow villagers. With innate intelligence, sharp thinking, and adaptability, he quickly grasped effective methods in this breeding industry. Although his duck farm wasn't very large, the business required continuous investment for the daily feed of the ducks. The larger the scale, the more costs increased exponentially. Despite Guoli's dedication and relentless efforts, he eventually faced debts amounting to hundreds of thousands. Nevertheless, life still flickered with hope. Beside him was a beautiful and capable wife, along with a family and career that remained relatively stable. Thus, Guoli and Huili each built separate families, each living their own lives, one in Hangzhou, one in Shanghai. They should have had nothing more to do with each other. But a meeting between them changed everything. There is currently no complete and verified information about how they reconnected. But it seems their beautiful first love quietly rekindled, igniting the flame of affection that had seemed extinguished between these 2 once-separated people. As the frequency of their contact increased, they made a bold decision to rekindle their old romance, end their current marriages, and build a new home together. Guoli did not hesitate to directly propose divorce to his wife, with an unwavering determination. His wife, for the sake of their young son, initially refused to comply with her husband's wishes. This refusal ignited Guoli's rage, causing him to exceed boundaries, even resorting to violence. In a moment of lost control, Guoli strangled his wife, nearly pushing her to death. When her mother-in-law learned of the horrifying incident, she was terrified. The son-in-law, who had always appeared gentle and polite in her eyes, could reveal such a violent and frightening nature. Because of this, she advised her daughter to accept the divorce, fearing that one day Guoli might actually take her daughter's life in a similar fit of rage. Guoli's sudden actions left friends around him shocked and bewildered. Life was becoming stable, so why did he suddenly take such extreme actions? To these questions, Guoli explained to friends that he wasn't being unfaithful or heartless. He gave two reasons. One was his deep feelings for Guoli, and the other was his increasingly desperate financial situation. With debts amounting to hundreds of thousands, Guoli had become the helping hand, resolving many difficulties for him. Guoli admitted that without her support, even if he sold the duck farm, he couldn't solve the pressing debt. When they were together, finances would have a more solid foundation. He even promised that Guoli would pay $100,000 to his ex-wife, plus an additional 800 yuan, approximately $120, in monthly living expenses. Everyone clearly saw that Guoli did not want to live in poverty. Each person has their own goals and pursuits, so family and friends did not interfere much with his decision. Eventually, both Guoli and Guoli completed divorce procedures with their former partners, and neither claimed custody of their children. In 2008, when Guoli was 43 and Guoli was 39, they officially registered their marriage, becoming a legally married couple. Guoli also transferred his household registration to Hangzhou, marking a new turning point in his life. A year later, in 2009, they joyfully welcomed the birth of a daughter. In the early stages after marriage, the couple's life passed in sweetness and happiness. In 2010, a wave of change came when Guoli's duck farming land in Shanghai was requisitioned by the government. In return, he received compensation of about 1 million yuan, approximately $150,000, a significant sum that considerably improved the family's financial situation. Then, Guoli's former village, Sanbao, was also slated for relocation. According to the compensation policy based on headcount, each resident was allocated 592 square feet, 55 square meters, of housing. With 3 members, the family was entitled to a total of 1,776 square feet, 165 square meters, of resettlement housing. Both events, land requisition and population relocation, seemed to open up prospects for a more prosperous future life. The first 592 square foot resettlement apartment in Sanbao was arranged first, and the family of 3 temporarily settled there. The remaining 1,184 square feet, 110 square meters, was promised to be delivered in the following years. In the eyes of neighbors, the family appeared as a harmonious picture, often strolling together after cozy dinners. Guoli impressed with his gentle nature and meticulousness in housework, from washing clothes to cooking and cleaning. Meanwhile, Guoli displayed a more resolute character, sometimes showing harshness in arguments and always controlling the family finances. However, her behavior toward others was always proper, with nothing to complain about, and she was very capable with household matters. As a husband, Guoli always showed himself to be accommodating and indulgent toward his wife. Even when conflicts arose, he would take the initiative to make up and comfort her. Their arguments only occurred occasionally, and for most of the time, the couple still showed each other deep love. When asked about their relationship, both relatives and friends remarked that they were a harmonious couple, with personalities complementing each other wonderfully. Many even said that Guoli was lucky to have married such a good man, always wholeheartedly caring for his family. In 2014, the couple began showing special interest in a real estate project introduced by friends. Guoli even shared in front of friends that she wanted Old Shoe, her affectionate nickname for her husband, to become famous and be the boss of this project, because being a boss was always something to be proud of. So they decided to invest in this high-end real estate project, marking a new step in their lives. In the summer of 2015, Guoli's son from his previous marriage successfully tested into a university in Hangzhou from Taizhou. After the divorce, his ex-wife still hadn't remarried, raising their son alone in rural Taizhou. The emotional debt to his ex-wife and son had become something Guoli frequently mentioned in conversations with friends. He always harbored the intention that if his living conditions improved in the future, he would try to compensate within his ability. Guoli was also very proud of his son, an outstanding young man who was changing his fate through education. After Huili learned about her husband's son, she generously agreed to accept him developing his career in Hangzhou. In fact, from the early days together, Huili had promised Guoli that if the family became wealthy in the future, arranging a house for his son would not be a problem. She even outlined a beautiful vision of having one house in Hangzhou and one in Jinan, affirming that this would definitely happen. Guoli did not hide his intentions when sharing with those around him that if the next 1,184 square foot resettlement could be divided into 2 separate units, he wished to give the best 592 square foot one to his son. However, fate did not smile on them when the real estate project quickly fell into losses due to policy changes and unreliable business partners. The couple's dream of becoming bosses shattered in the blink of an eye. Huili's promise about a house for Guoli's son could no longer be fulfilled. When it came time to receive the next resettlement housing, they decided to take a single 1,184 square foot unit, with the reason of wanting more comfortable living space. After this shock, Huili began working as a cleaner at some organization. Her income, including pension and cleaning salary, ranged around 7,000 to 8,000 yuan, approximately $1,000 to $1,200 per month. Guoli, not content with the reality that he still hadn't achieved success, maintained regular social interactions with friends and relatives in his hometown. He actively participated in village activities, even boldly running for village chief, but ultimately failed in this endeavor as well. After these failures, Guoli found stable employment as a technical driver at the Hangzhou subway maintenance facility with a monthly income of over 4,000 yuan, approximately $600. Huili seemed quite satisfied with the current financial situation, believing that the few million in savings in the bank earning interest was completely sufficient to meet the family's spending needs. However, behind closed doors in the private space invisible to outsiders, the couple quietly accumulated many conflicts. The deepest point of disagreement between them revolved around money. Guoli, after many ups and downs, had experienced numerous significant financial risks. When the couple began to accumulate wealth, their views on asset management were completely opposite. While Huili preferred safety, wanting to deposit money in the bank to earn stable interest, Guoli had a more risk-taking mentality. He had early ventured into the world of futures and stocks with a strong belief in his intelligence and sensitivity to numbers. Guoli was confident that he would certainly succeed in this financial investment field. But in reality, he had overestimated his abilities, leading to heavy losses. This issue had become the trigger for countless fierce arguments between the couple. Guoli still craved financial support from Huili to have the opportunity to recover his losses. It was also at this time that Huili's attitude toward her husband underwent a profound transformation. The halo of admiration had long since dissipated, replaced only by dissatisfaction and bitter accusations. Faced with unconstrained criticism from his wife, Guoli felt both ashamed and filled with anger. Gradually, the seeds of resentment sprouted in his heart, to the extent that later, even small trivial conflicts in daily life were enough to make him unable to control himself, all contributing to deepening the ever-accumulating resentment. In early 2020, the second phase of resettlement housing in Sanbao village was officially implemented. The new house had an area of 1,184 square feet, located in an extremely advantageous geographical position. By estimation, the value of this property was around 70,000 yuan per square meter, approximately $1,000 per square foot. This meant that, including their current home in Sanbao, the total asset value of Huili and Guoli's family had exceeded 10 million yuan, approximately $1.5 million. However, this new house, instead of bringing joy, only deepened the loneliness in Guoli's soul. Huili had outlined a plan to move the whole family to live in the large house and rent out the current 592 square foot unit to increase income. But then, she demanded that Guoli bear the decoration costs for the new house. This request made Guoli extremely uncomfortable. With his current tight financial situation, he didn't have much money, And because of this issue, the couple once again plunged into heated arguments. Regarding the ownership of the new house, Guoli only put her name on the documents, a decision that once again ignited Guoli's anger. He couldn't help but wonder. The previous house was already in her name, now with an additional house. Why does she still not value me? Also during this time, Guoli's older son was preparing for his wedding, and he tried to propose using the 1,184 square foot house as the venue for his son's wedding ceremony. Unsurprisingly, this proposal was immediately flatly rejected by Guoli. This incident made Guoli feel that he had been patient for so many years, yet was still belittled and completely ignored by his wife. Along with all previous accumulations, Guoli's inner self began to slip into darkness. The family's assets were increasingly abundant, but it seemed that none of it had anything to do with him anymore. On the morning of July 4th, 2020, the couple went to the hospital for different purposes. Guoli for a dental checkup, while Guoli, who suffered from high blood pressure, went to get her regular medication. Afterward, they returned home for lunch together. In the afternoon, while Guoli went to check the decoration progress of the new house, Guoli took their young daughter, who was celebrating her birthday that very day, to buy books and cake. At 5:10 p.m., mother and daughter took the elevator up to their home. That evening, to celebrate their daughter's 11th birthday, Guoli planned to make meatballs and asked Guoli to clean the meat grinder. During the cleaning process, due to the extremely sharp blade, Guoli accidentally cut her hand. This incident triggered a new argument between them. However, eventually, thinking of their daughter's birthday, they quickly reconciled. The three enjoyed dinner together, maintaining their last moments of harmony. After each conflict, Guoli was usually the one to take the initiative to comfort his wife, and this time was no exception. They maintained the habit of drinking milk before bed. Guoli proactively brought Guoli a glass of milk. Their young daughter also enjoyed a glass. After drinking, around 10 p.m., the whole family went to bed and fell into sleep. Until 8:07 p.m. on July 6, 2020, Hangzhou police received a report. Resident Guoli on the 8th floor, building number 4, Sanbao, Jianggan district, had mysteriously disappeared. The last time she appeared was on the afternoon of July 4th, with security camera footage showing her and her young daughter returning home after shopping. According to Guoli's account, at 0:30 a.m. on July 5th, when he woke up to go to the bathroom, Guoli was still lying in bed. However, by around 5:30 a.m. the same day, when he awoke, he did not see his wife anywhere. The weather in Hangzhou during those days was quite bad, with rain falling early that morning. But at that time, Guoli only thought that his wife had urgent business to attend to, so she had to go out, not giving it much weight. What puzzled people was that all of Guoli's personal items, such as her wallet, keys, and phone, were still at home. Only a nightgown and a pair of black shoes were missing. Although Hangzhou was experiencing heavy rainfall during these days, the umbrella in the house remained untouched. Nevertheless, Guoli was not too worried, believing that his wife would soon return. July 5th passed in waiting, but there was still no sign of Guoli. She did not contact her family, did not return home for meals, and was absent all night. By July 6th, Monday, Guoli's workplace contacted the family to inform them that she had not come to work. The eldest daughter, after many unsuccessful attempts to contact her mother, felt something was wrong and decided to report to the police for assistance. At this point, Guoli had been missing for about 40 hours. Although Sanbao was a new resettlement area, it was equipped with modern facilities and a high-standard security system. As soon as the unusual disappearance of Guoli was noticed, the family quickly contacted the building management to check the surveillance camera system. Surprisingly, throughout the entire camera system, there was no image captured of Guoli leaving the building. The family's apartment was located on the 8th floor of building number. The building had 2 elevators, and each floor was equipped with a safe emergency exit. However, only the emergency exits were not installed with surveillance cameras, the only blind spot in the security system. If one wanted to leave the condominium without being captured by cameras, the only way would be to go down the stairs to the basement, then follow an extremely complex route to reach the ground. But even with this option, there was still a camera at a distant position that could capture the image of someone's feet passing by. However, after careful examination, no trace of Guoli was found. Knowing that Guoli frequently had sleep issues, the family worried she might have been sleepwalking or had some accident. With the consent and support from relevant authorities, they drained the landscape pond within the condominium to search. However, there were no notable discoveries, thus ruling out the possibility that Guoli had accidentally fallen into the water. After the incident occurred, local media followed and reported, causing a significant wave online. An adult had disappeared, and internet users were concerned about the progress of the case. Public opinion gradually heated up, becoming a nationwide topic. Guoli also accepted interviews multiple times. Why didn't you report to the police at that time? What happened? No. You thought she might have gone out? She might have gone out alone. She couldn't go out with her intelligence. Having been together for so many years. She went out. What will my daughter do? What will my life be like? When will my wife come back? I completely don't know. In interviews with the media, Guoli firmly declared that there were no significant conflicts between the couple and also no unusual signs before Guoli disappeared. This statement quickly became the focus of countless rumors and speculations on social media. Internet users came up with many theories. Some suggested that condominium staff had kidnapped Guoli and skillfully avoided surveillance cameras. Others guessed that she had secretly run away with a lover. Notably, Guoli also seemed to intentionally guide public opinion in this direction by continuously raising provocative questions. Where had Guoli gone? Did she leave on her own? Why couldn't the camera system capture her image? Did she actually leave the condominium? Each question exuded strangeness and mystery. Various rumors and discussions continued to spread, escalating at a dizzying pace within the online community. However, many people began to turn suspicions toward Guoli himself. The main reason stemmed from his perplexing attitude in interviews. Some observed that he seemed to be mocking his missing wife, which many considered inappropriate for someone worried about finding a loved one. The media also mentioned this suspicion in the interview. Did you have any discord with her before? Or it could be said, no, none. If talking about conflicts, perhaps at least half a year ago, there would be a little conflict. Did you reconcile? Reconcile? This conflict doesn't need reconciliation. It's not like I can live, then you can also live. Did she show any unusual behavior before? So you're not saying unusual anyway, nothing unusual. The police also quickly intervened with a systematic investigation, soon realizing this wasn't an ordinary disappearance. The Sanbao area was not large, consisting of only 6 residential buildings. Notably, all doors leading to the rooftop on each floor were locked, and only the management held the keys. The security system here was comprehensively deployed, from elevators, unit doors, parking lots to public areas of the condominium. All were installed with surveillance cameras, forming a closed network. With this system, if someone left by any conventional method, they would certainly be captured on camera. During the investigation, the police conducted an extremely thorough check of 96 internal surveillance cameras in the condominium, along with nearly 1,000 surveillance cameras installed in surrounding areas, extracting a total of up to 6,000 hours of surveillance video. They analyzed each phase, each subject, each frame, almost missing no person or object that had appeared in the entire video. After a meticulous investigation process, the police concluded that Guoli, after returning home on the afternoon of July 4th, had not left the condominium, and there was a high possibility that she had met with an accident right in this area. The authorities conducted 4 comprehensive checks over an area of more than 107,600 square feet, 10,000 square meters, of the underground parking lot, along with scrutinizing all elevator shafts, water tanks, wells, cabinets, chimneys, ventilation ducts. They also interviewed 1,075 residents from 379 households in all 6 buildings, checking everything from refrigerators, washing machines to all imaginable spaces, but unfortunately, still couldn't find any trace of Guoli. However, the difficult investigation process didn't mean no results were obtained. On the contrary, each step of checking helped narrow down the search scope. Finally, the suspicious area was identified within a specific space, Guoli and Guoli's own apartment. If Guoli had indeed met with an accident, then her husband Guoli, the last person confirmed to have contact with her, became the prime suspect. However, a big question still haunted investigators. In a 592-square-foot apartment, how could an adult, after meeting with an accident, completely disappear without leaving a trace? Experienced investigators quickly made an initial assessment and set a new investigation direction. On July 22nd, they decided to focus on an area that hadn't been thoroughly examined, the septic tank system of the condominium. Many specialized septic tank pump trucks were dispatched to the scene to carry out the work. From 3 p.m. on July 22nd to 4 p.m. on July 23rd, throughout 25 continuous hours without rest, the investigation team washed and collected a total of 38 tanks of sewage from the pump trucks, and indeed they discovered tissues suspected to be human tissue among them. After conducting DNA comparison with samples from Guoli's daughter, the results confirmed a painful truth. Guoli, who had been missing for 18 days, had indeed met with tragedy. On July 23rd, the police officially arrested Guoli on suspicion of intentional homicide. During interrogation, Guoli finally confessed to his entire criminal behavior. On the night of July 4th, he had put sleeping pills in both Guoli and their young daughter's milk. By dawn, taking advantage of Guoli being in a deep sleep due to the effect of the drug, he used a pillow to tightly cover her face until she suffocated to death. In the moment between life and death, Guoli sensed the imminent danger and called out Guoli once, but that call did not move the hardened heart of her husband. After committing the crime, he processed the body, pushing it through the toilet into the sewage pipe, then to the septic tank. Specific details about the case were not publicly disclosed and cannot be confirmed, but it can be affirmed that the method was extremely cruel and very carefully planned. After committing the crime, he cleaned the scene multiple times. Before the media interviews, he tried to appear calm, even attempting to divert the investigation, implying that Guoli had left with someone else. To avoid suspicion, he even went to great lengths, having the family offer a reward of 100,000 yuan, approximately $15,000, for information, and repeatedly visiting Guoli's mother's house and relatives to inquire about the situation. He also went to the police station to ask about the progress of the investigation. But he could not have anticipated that the incident would cause such a shocking effect. People across the country, even overseas Chinese, were following closely. The police took only 18 days to catch him. On May 14, 2021, the case where Guoli was charged with intentional homicide was officially brought to trial at the Hangzhou Intermediate People's Court. After the trial process, on July 26, 2021, the court sentenced the defendant Guoli to death for the crime of intentional homicide, while also depriving him of all political rights for life. Not accepting this judgment, Guoli filed an appeal to a higher level. However, by April 8, 2022, the Zhejiang Province High People's Court rejected the appeal and upheld the original sentence. According to legal regulations, the death sentence for Guoli was transferred to the Supreme People's Court for final approval procedures. Looking back at the entire tragedy of Guoli and Guoli's family, we cannot help but be shocked by the gap between the peaceful appearance and the darkness hidden behind closed doors. This is not just a story about a murder, but also a profound warning about the potential dangers when conflicts and discord accumulate over time without being resolved openly and healthily. From the sweet first love to the years living together, then the accumulated assets and conflicts over money, their story reflects a painful journey of accumulated hatred and loss of trust. Guoli's death not only ended a life, but also shattered the future of an entire family, leaving children with endless pain and a father facing the death penalty. This case reminds us that, although marital life has its challenges, violence is never the answer. When words and emotions are not expressed properly, they can turn into invisible monsters, gradually swallowing reason and humanity. Instead of letting conflicts simmer and erupt, couples need to seek support from family, friends, or psychological professionals when necessary. In modern society, as life pressures increasingly mount, we need to remind ourselves of the importance of forgiveness, respect, and sincere dialogue in all relationships. For ultimately, no material asset can measure the value of a life, and no conflict is worth the price Guoli chose to pay. And that is the case for today. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos.